Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Her Side of the Ruck, proudly sponsored by Hook and Flanker. I'm Tash.
I'm Bernice.
And we're not pundits.
We're just two women who know what a ruck is.
On today's episode, we'll be previewing the round 3 fixtures of the Men's Six Nations. And we've got a couple of big headlines this weekend. Maro Itoje, the England captain who also captained the British and Irish Lions Tour in 2025, is set to make 100 caps on home soil. We'll be talking about the matchday squad in England. At the time we're recording this episode, a couple of the squads still haven't been announced, but we'll dissect a couple of the selections from England and also preview the other 2 matches taking place this weekend. So let's get into it. But before we preview, Bernice, can I get your thoughts on the round 2 fixtures? Because I gave my reaction to the Calcutta Cup at the weekend, which was it was a bit brutal to take, I'll be completely honest, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on the round 2 action.
Yeah, I think surprised, exciting, I think all in one go. I'm sure you were not a very happy girl at the end of this weekend's matches. And yeah, I remember you sending me a message and I was like, no, this is not happening. And I was so surprised at the result of the England versus Scotland match. I mean, it is great for Scotland. We spoke a lot about, whether Gregor Townsend should stay and where England is at the moment, where Scotland is at the moment. So I think Scotland will obviously be very happy with their performance. England will have to regroup. I think Italy is also a real winner coming out of this weekend's results. Even though they didn't win, they walk away with the losing bonus point against Ireland. And I mean, they only lost with 7 points. So I think that's a massive win for Italy. And then, yeah, I think it was kind of the same old story for Wales and what we've seen from Wales. And it was actually a very exciting match up until like the end of the first half, and then things just started falling apart for Wales in the second half. And I think it was that last try from France in the first half that really shifted the momentum completely in France's favor. Exciting. There are a few standout players from this weekend as well, both like from France, Scotland, Italy. So yeah, but I think overall, I think probably the biggest winners from this round were probably Scotland, Italy, and France.
Yeah, 100%. I was impressed how Wales bounced back in that first 40. And I totally agree with you that France just went tooth and nail and put the hammer in on Wales in that 4th try. And then they kind of ran away with it. And it just goes to show how relentless France are in attack and, quite frankly, are now or were at the start the tournament favourites. I thought England were the tournament favourites, but clearly England are still an incredibly flawed team. That's not to say France and the other teams aren't also flawed teams, but I think with how France have been able to assert their offensive dominance so far in this competition has been a huge statement. So I think Italy will actually prove to be quite a big competition for them this weekend. I'm really looking forward to that fixture. I mean, we'll talk about it a bit more in this episode. But yeah, I was impressed by Italy's performance. Ireland just kind of came back in it a little bit. But yeah, as we've already mentioned, we're seeing cracks in this Ireland team, and England need to bounce back. And oh my goodness, their bogey team is Scotland, because the Scots majorly outperformed them. They 100% deserve the win. They bounced back from quite horrible conditions the week before against Italy. Really quite a poor performance against Italy. And there's been questions of, will England well prepared coming into the Scotland fixture? But I just think time and again, you know that Scotland will bring it. There's so much history. It's like if the Springboks were going to face the All Blacks, you're not going to go into it with nonchalance. You're going into it knowing that the opposition are going to bring their all. And I just don't think that England maybe went with that right mindset. But if you want to hear all of my reaction, we've got a video further back in the channel that you can have a look at, because I gave my unfiltered reaction, and I'm feeling positive now a few more days on, but it was a tough loss to take. Anyway, why don't we move on to round 3? Feeling a bit more positive. Back at home again, England versus Ireland. We mentioned Maro Itoje set to become a Centurion this weekend, which is a phenomenal achievement. There's very few athletes that get 100 caps for their country, and Itoje thoroughly deserves it. A couple of stats, I suppose. This is from England Rugby. He's played 7,623 minutes in an England shirt. He's
Wow.
made 1,139 tackles. And he's also won 115 turnovers in his England career. I think that just sums up the type of character that he is. I already mentioned that he captained the British and Irish Lions tour, and he's also won 5 Premiership titles with his club, Saracens, which is so, it's honestly amazing. So I think for him, it fits right for him to run out in front of the Allianz in Twickenham to get his 100th cap, because Fordy got his 100th cap in Argentina, and it's not the same. Like 100 caps is amazing, but you
Mm.
would rather do it in front of a home crowd.
Definitely, and I think there's no one who deserves it more than Maro. He's done a lot for English rugby, and as you've said, he's captained the British and Irish Lions. So fitting to do it at the Allianz Stadium, and it feels like Maro starts at every game that I
Mm.
that I watch. Like it's insane. But yeah, I think his captaincy and his leadership skills, like he really makes an impact when he is on the field. And not only is he a great lock, but I really think that when he is captain for England, England perform really well. And you can just tell that he brings a sort of calm energy to the side. So it's very fitting that this is happening. And yeah, I mean, massive congrats to him.
I also think a point about diversity. In previous years, the men's rugby squad has not been a particularly diverse squad either. And for Itoje to have such an amazing career and also pave the way for other people who look like him, I suppose, to come through and show that rugby isn't just a posh white man sport, because that is sometimes the perception of men's rugby in England at the minute, and just kind of changing that narrative. And I think we're seeing a lot more diversity coming through the pathways as well in a lot of the Northern Hemisphere countries at the minute. And I think that's great to see, and showing that rugby is truly a sport for everybody. But I echo your thoughts completely about Maro. Let's talk about Ireland. What do you think Ireland need to do this weekend to beat England? Because the last time they played at Twickenham, it was the Marcus Smith drop goal in the final few minutes that sealed England the
Mhm.
win.
I mean, besides selecting a different fly half, um, Uh, yeah, for Ireland, it's going to be important to have a fast start because we've seen them against other teams, and yeah, where they have not particularly have a fast start, and it's kind of like they struggle to build that momentum. And yeah, there's just a few things that aren't clicking for Ireland at the minute, and I think
Mm,
they are still figuring out what it is. But I think particularly against England, it's going to be important for them to front up physically. We've seen how England are playing with their front row players, and like England scrums and line out set pieces have improved massively. And we've
mhm,
also seen in terms of their bench and how Steve Borthwick have structured their bench. He also makes use of the 6-2 splits, and it has worked really well for him. So his bench has made a massive impact in previous games. And so I think England really likes playing with their forwards. So I think Ireland will need to step up in that regard. And I think Ireland will definitely need to win those collisions because, I mean, England like taking the ball up. So
mm.
Ireland will definitely have to win those physical collisions if they want to come out on top.
What the performance against Italy in round two showed was they've lost a little bit of power and physicality
Mm.
up front. I definitely think the Springboks dismantling them in the autumn will have knocked some of the confidence back. Ireland have not
Mhm.
been helped by injuries in the squad. But Italy's first try
Yeah.
against Ireland, it comes from a precise line out into a driving maul, doesn't really like Ireland don't really stop it. And okay, one of the Ireland's tries does come from short range later on in that match. But if you think
Mm.
about like the selections of Maro Itoje and Ollie Chesham, I could talk about the England squad because that was announced on Monday. We are recording on
Mm.
Wednesday evening, so the Ireland squad is still not out at the time of recording. But if you're
Mm.
watching this at that
Mhm.
point, let us know your thoughts about the
Mhm.
Irish selections in the comments below. we've got Itoje and Chesum. These are two of the best line-out jumpers, two of the best line-out callers in terms of like masterminds of that set piece. So if England can get the yardage and capitalize on their forward momentum and their platform, kick to the corner, just is it boring rugby, set piece rugby? Like they don't necessarily need to play with like the French flair. Like let the French do what the French do best and actually come back to your strength, which is the set piece, because under Borthwick, the set piece is great. So I think that England probably have the upper hand in terms of how they move the ball with the forwards. I think in the scrum as well, that was one of the positives coming out of the Calcutta Cup match. England's scrum held firm and the set piece were probably the two strongest areas of that play, as it was the back line positioning and the defensive positioning, which Scotland just exploited. But when you had Huey Pelosu on form, Kyle Steyn had a far better game than he did in the first round. But there were also changes in that forward pack that gave the back line the platform. So what the forwards for England need to do is give the platform, as I don't think at the moment Ireland's set piece is strong enough to compete with England's. However, the way that they distribute the ball in the back line and capitalise opportunities for line breaks, stretching it wide, or just holding the pass and the delay, whether it's to Tommy O'Brien or whether it's out to one of the other wings or centres, I think works really well in Ireland's favour.
Yeah, and I also think that Ireland's really good at the breakdown, and that's a strength of theirs. And I think that's something that they really need to focus on going into this match against England, as you've said. They have players like Morrow and Ollie Chesum's really good in the line out. Henry Pollock's back in the squad, and I'm sure that both of us are pretty happy about that and just excited to see what he'll do. But Ireland do have key players in their 6, 7, and 8 who are very strong at the breakdown, and I think that's something they should really focus on. And you've also spoken about how they need to use their opportunities and capitalize on opportunities in the match. And I think that's something that I saw in England that I was quite surprised about in terms of having to make a plan quickly when Henry Arundel went off with a 20-minute red card. It felt like England was scrambling and didn't really know what to do. And then when Scotland distributed the ball to the wingers, they almost made it look easy. So I think for Ireland, it's just going to be all about capitalizing on opportunities, spotting opportunities, and actually finishing on that.
Clearly, the Celtic nations are doing each other a favour because Scotland provided a map of how to beat England in the Calcutta Cup. So if Ireland can do something similar but work on their strengths, like you say, at the breakdown, using that space, holding the delayed pass, if they can beat England with their game, they will probably come out on top. I think it will be a close game, but there have been some rotations in the squad, and I'm glad that there has been, because I'm so glad to see Bath centre Ollie Lawrence back in. He's at 13. Tommy Freeman moves out onto the wing. I feel like last week England were really missing a big guy in the centres. Like Dingwall is a great player, and I think he's got a great work ethic. When you're up against one of the best centre pairings in the world of Hugh Jones and Sione Tuipulotu, it's going to make you not maybe look as great as you possibly are. And I don't think Freeman was best suited in that game at 13. He would have been much better out on the wing because that is his area of expertise. So I'm really glad that Freeman's back on the wing, and also Arundel hasn't lost his position on the wing as well, because I think probably the worst thing that could have happened was he gets axed from the squad because he had a rough game. Let's be real, like that the Calcutta Cup was not Henry Arundel's best game. However, when he gets the ball in hand, he is a horse. Like, it's the year of the horse. Chinese New Year's just happened recently, and Henry Arundel is a horse. Like, soon as he runs, he's getting yards. So I'm glad that there's been some retention in that area, because the last thing you want is for him, his confidence to be knocked. And I do think his aerial abilities improved massively. I'm going to mention a name that you've already said, Henry Pollock. I'm glad that he is at number 8, because when you've got Tom Curry and Ben Earl on the flankers, Henry Pollock is one of those players who could easily peel off the back of a ruck or the base of the scrum, or he just breaks lines. Like, he's a hybrid player in the sense in a slightly different way that Ben Earl is a hybrid player. Henry Pollock is quicker, much quicker than Earl, but he offers something a little bit different. And honestly, I do think that England were lacking the energy last week against Scotland. And we both know, and everybody on this channel also knows, that Henry Pollock will bring energy at some point in the game, whether it's off the bench or whether he's starting. So I'm glad to see him start, and I just hope that England can bounce back. I am backing, obviously, the men in white to win, but I think it will be close. Games against Ireland for us are always close. So I'm going to say it's going to be within 3 points.
Yeah, I definitely think that England will also win this match. I think obviously they're coming off a loss against Scotland, but I think this one would have hurt. And I
Yeah,
saw an interesting stat where I'm not sure what the stats are now, whether it was six before the weekend or after the weekend, but Scotland have won five out of the six Kolkata
yeah.
encounters or something like that. And it's really it's insane. And I'm so sorry to bring that up again.
No,
I
it's
feel like I
okay.
have to like whisper it. Um, but
I'm wearing blue,
yeah, so
I guess so.
uh, but yeah, it was so surprising to me because obviously like I watched the Six Nations, but to know the history of it is interesting and the stats and past fixtures. But yeah, it's surprising to me because I remember that you said, Scotland is England's bogey team, and I was like, no, I'm
Mm.
sure this time it won't be. But yeah, so England are playing at home. It's Morrow's 100th cap. They're coming off from a loss. Ireland's also struggling to build momentum. Yes, they're winning matches, but it's not like they're necessarily improving every match. Don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I
No, it
can't
does.
see massive improvements from like week one to week two or round two. So yeah, I reckon it will be close as well, and I say
Mm.
England by 7 points.
I'll take that. I'd love to see England win by 7 points. I'm not sure
Yeah.
my heart or soul can take any more close scorelines or dismal scorelines as it was
Yeah.
last weekend. Anyway, let's move
Sure.
on to a side who's probably having a lot more of a dismal time than England are, and that's Wales. They face Scotland at the Principality, and I think there were more French fans than Welsh fans in that stadium
Oh my
at the
word.
weekend because the French are in full force, and it really kind of stood out to me how polar opposite those two nations are at this point. Like France are
Hmm.
fully behind their playing squad, and there is so much belief within that squad, even with the omissions of a lot of key playmakers that we were both surprised that didn't get in the Six Nations squad. But they're proving so far to have a very good start. So I'd be interested to see how France get on against Italy. But the game that we're focused on right now, Wales v Scotland, two teams which did improve. Scotland hugely improved massively from round two, and I think Wales' discipline also improved. Aaron Wainwright was literally everywhere on the field.
Hmm.
Like, he was actually insane. Wainwright tops the statistics table after round two for the most dominant contacts. And that, when you watch the replay and stuff, he's literally just everywhere. I also think Dan Edwards is growing quite well in a Welsh shirt. But I think if you think head to head with the tens that Scotland offer, Finn Russell, Adam Hastings, Tom Jordan, there is a significant difference in quality. Any of those three tens are stronger than Dan Edwards, in my personal opinion, at this point. But I do think Dan is improving, and it's good that we're seeing strong performances from individual players. I just think Wales are still lacking this synergy at the moment.
Aaron Wainwright is one of their key and one of their standout players, and he's one of those individuals that no matter, how bad it's going with Wales or how poorly the performance are, I think he's always one of those players that stand out. And I think if you can stand out in a losing team, that's always just go to show what type of player you are. But
100%.
I think what must be frustrating for Wales and fans is it's not like Wales are not performing like that due to a lack of trying. Like I watched the match against France and I was like, they are giving it their all,
Yeah.
and at some points it felt like, yes, it was almost easy for France or whatever in the second half. But in the first half, like they really gave it their all. It was not due to a lack of trying, as I've mentioned. I think the confidence in the Welsh squad is just so low at the minute that, if something like that happens where France score a try and it shifts momentum, obviously it wasn't just one try from France that, where Wales stood and they were like, oh no, we're giving up. At some point it was 19-7, which is actually still a competitive score and anything
Yeah,
can happen then
100%.
in the second half. But then
Yeah.
when France scored again, it was just kind of the nail in the coffin for Wales. It's just silly things like passes that don't go to hand. And I think you said it well, like the synergy that Wales are not finding at the minute. Wales are missing a lot of tackles as well. So I think
Yeah.
if they wanted to be a competitive match against Scotland, they definitely have to sharpen up on their defense. And we spoke about it last week about like Wales needing to focus on doing small things right. So either focusing on
Mm.
getting a losing bonus point or not getting any yellow cards. They didn't get any yellow cards, which is a
Yeah,
great win for Wales.
100%.
So which goes to show they discipline did improve. But I think it will be the same this week, and I'm hoping for a much closer match against Scotland. I mean, even though Scotland will probably build on that performance and they'll come into this match with a lot more confidence than Wales, but I'm hoping to see a closer scoreline. I do think Scotland will win, even though it's at the Principality. I still think Scotland will win, but I am hoping for a closer scoreline and just some sort of improvement. So one of the commentators also said that the average of points conceded by Wales per match is either 30 or 40. I can't remember. That's a lot of points
Yeah.
per match to concede. So, and I think that just goes to show it kind of refers back to their defense and that it's very much lacking.
And even like the passes to hand, like a team can get an intercept ball from that, or if you can get the opposition foot in there to kick the ball down the field, like at international level, you've got people who are quick enough to chase that ball. And if it
Mm,
doesn't lead to a try, at least leads to gaining 10, 20, 30 meters, depending on where that
yeah.
passage of play can happen on the field. There are huge improvements happening under Steve Tandy, but I don't think the fans blame the players. Sonia
Mm,
McLaughlin from the BBC did a pretty scathing feature with, she was just asking, it was not from her, she was just asking how do Welsh fans feel, and the responses she got were really quite depressing, and they were all like, oh, I don't see the point in buying tickets anymore. What's the point if we're coming from North Wales down to Cardiff, paying all that money to see our team lose? And someone said
mm,
they don't blame the players, they blame the WRU. And so it was an interesting feature piece, but even the broadcasters are trying to find different narratives to talk about Wales. And it just goes to show this should be an example to every single national rugby union of how not to do things, because the WRU have really messed up quite badly, and you can't blame the players and Tandy. I also
mm,
think if Tandy had more time or more choice with what attacking and defensive coaching members of staff that he had, I think we might have seen more progress more quickly. But we are seeing improvements with this Welsh squad. It's just little wins each week and thinking there is light at the end of the tunnel, even if that light
mm,
seems incredibly far away at this minute. On Scotland, I see two outcomes. They either perform really, really well and carry on this momentum and kind of destroy Wales, and we see tries from Hugh Jones, from the wingers, from the forward pack, like kind of a bit like they
mm,
did against England, or we see the complete reverse. They take their foot off the gas. They think, oh, we've got this in the bag, boys. And you've got
mm,
mistakes happening and set pieces don't pan out. And Wales, like, there are players in that Welsh squad who will take the opportunities. Like, we saw the lapse in round one when England kind of lapsed in defence a little bit and Wales scored their try. So Wales aren't going to stop. These boys really want to
mm,
prove to themselves and to the nation that they're good enough. So I see more of the former happening for Scotland. Like in
yeah.
terms of the cohesion within the Scottish side, I don't see them losing to Wales, where I've already mentioned they don't seem to have as much synergy. Lots of individual talent and decent, some good passages of play and work effort and the work at the breakdown or the turnover ball, chasing the ball, like being consistent in not giving up for Wales. But overall, it's not there, as we saw a very coherent package with Scotland in the Calcutta Cup. I see a Scotland win by about 15, 20 points potentially, but I would love to see a closer scoreline. I would love to see Wales really give it that all. And I think they are. I don't think it's, as you mentioned, a lack of trying. It's just the playbook's not coming off, but I don't think that's just down to them. The final game of the weekend is France versus Italy. Le Bleu, they are the team to beat at the moment. And it's a bit scary how good their attack is, isn't it?
It's scary the depth that they have in their squad because I think we place a lot of emphasis on, the young squad and, whether Fabian Gaultier is making the right decision by leaving out players like Gregory Aldred, Damien Penaud, because we are both big fans of Damien Penaud and like his style of play. And just, I feel like Damien Penaud is the typical French player that plays with French flair, amazing attacking play. He's a big winger as well, so he's strong. You mentioned it earlier. So far, Gaultier has proven us wrong.
Totally
And
wrong,
I
yeah.
don't know where this is coming from. It's really insane because I think he's getting the mix of players right, the mix of experienced players together with a little bit more inexperienced players and giving young guns a chance. And I mean, it's paying off. So it's not just giving them a chance and oh no, they're performing poorly or they're actually not making it in the squad. Like they're actually performing so well. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but the outside winger is like, he is just incredible. And I mean, he plays in a sense that I've forgotten who Damien Penaud is. And I'm sure once Damien Penaud is back in the squad, we'll probably be like, okay, no, this is what we missed. But it's like one player is as good as the next.
Yeah.
And I think with Matthew Jalibert getting more opportunity to play, like we've seen the playmaker that he is, his cross kicks. I feel like he's got such a good vision of the game and
Yes,
game
totally.
management. Like, yeah, it's insane. And yes, it was just Wales and France still have to play Ireland and England, so they have big matches coming up. But
Scotland
yeah,
too.
it's going
That
to be
could be a good
interesting to
one.
see how, yeah, Scotland as well, especially if Scotland can build on their momentum from last weekend. And then
Yeah.
I'm very excited for that match. And then it's going to be big. But yeah, France is just like, they are on fire.
To use a metaphor, if you think of the sea and a storm with relentless rain and wind and waves, well, that is what the French attack is at the minute. It seems anytime they get the
Yeah.
opportunity to run the ball forward, they are. I also think Galtier's selections of like Olivon at second row, that he was in the second row against Wales. He's usually a flanker for Toulon, and he's been such an effective choice. And I've listened to a couple of other
Yeah.
different commentators who said how many different back rowers there are actually in that forward pack. It's normally 3 or 4 per week
Mm.
per squad. And if you think like how big that makes your pack, well, of course, then the back line, which is always constantly pushing forward. That's how Louis Barry gets into the game because he's a winger that's always kind of like teetering on the edge. And he's so quick that as soon as he's got the ball, he's off. So if you've got a forward pack that is so powerful with, I mean, Charles Oliver is like one of the biggest guys in rugby. If you don't know what he looks like, I'll
Yeah.
put a picture of him on the screen, but you'll probably go, oh, right, yeah, I know who he
Yeah.
is because he's a force to be reckoned with. And if you've got that sort of power in your pack, then of course your back line is going to be able to shine, really. And France have shown that really, really well. I do want to talk about Italy though, because they're also becoming a force to be reckoned with in their own right. Yes, one win, one loss, all fairly close scores, but there used to be a time when Italy were being confidently beaten by every other team in this league, but no longer.
Yeah. Italy, we've seen it in the autumn internationals when they played the Springboks. It was a tough game, and yes, the conditions
Mhm.
were horrific, but it was a tough game for the Springboks. And the whole of the first half, I think the halftime score was something like 7-5. I can't remember the exact score, but it was very close.
Yeah,
And I think Italy is also, they are finding, their squad that works for them, and they have injuries
yeah,
as well. They're making it work, and I feel like the players that they have, like Garbisi, Louis Leinach, like they are improving every week, and Garbisi is
mm,
so good with his kicks to the post.
totally agree.
And that's something that you really need in an international player. And Louis Leinach, I mean, we mention his name every single week. He's just such a standout player. But yeah, I think Italy is a force to be reckoned with. I do think that France will still walk away with 10 points plus win over Italy, but I do think Italy will give them a bit of an uphill battle at first, and then the French flair will come through. But I am very excited for this match actually. And, besides the England versus Ireland match, which I think is obviously the match of the weekend to watch, but I'm very excited for this match.
Totally. You took the words out of my mouth about Garbisi as well. I thought he had a great kicking game at the
Mm.
weekend for post. Really accurate, looked really calm and collected. A couple of other things like Italy's lineouts have been really strong too. Manuel Zuilani, please let me know if I got that wrong.
Mm.
He's got 2 lineout steals as well as Michelle Lamaro. Please let me know if I also got that wrong.
Sounds
They
sexy.
top I'm trying. I always need to. I'm not very good with the European accents, but yeah, I just kind of. Hopefully, I got it right. They topped the stats table across all the teams so far for line-out steals in the competition, and Giacomo Nictera. That I think I got the first name pretty well, but we'll see. I mean, I can't roll my R's. Bernice knows this. She's tried to teach me to roll my R's when teaching me Afrikaans, and it's not worked. Sorry to the Italians if I didn't get that right. But he has won 19 line-out throws. So Italy's line-outs are really great, and that's how they set up their first try against Ireland at the weekend. So I think if it comes to an option for kicking to touch to then have an attacking line-out, we will see that quite a lot from Italy against France. But yeah, I see France winning this one. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if France go on to win the Six Nations now that Scotland have beaten England. But I do think Italy will put up a great fight. And I'm looking forward to the contest between Louis Liner and Louis Biel-Barré as well on the wings. And someone who's a little bit stronger versus someone who is probably one of the fastest wingers in the world at the minute. And as well, because it's on home turf in France, French crowds can be tough, like really, really tough. They're one of the most, in terms of the most animosity environments in rugby,
Mm.
but it's great when your team's not playing them. So if you're a neutral watching it, it's so exciting. So I think it will be a good match. But yeah, for me, the game of the weekend, please don't think this because I'm biased. I think it's England Ireland, just because of the narrative around it, with the Centurion caps, with where
Yeah.
both of these teams are in terms of England coming off a loss, Ireland coming off I don't want to say a particularly convincing win. They kind of clawed it back in that second half against Italy, as I think in the other 2 games we'll see more convincing wins. But I hope that both other teams put up a really big fight. So I'm going to say France by 12 on this occasion. Well, those are our thoughts in our preview episode of round 3 of the Men's Six Nations. What are yours? Please let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Her Side of the Ruck. It's great to have you with us. And if you're new to the community, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes that come through your way. But that's all we've got time for now. So I'm going to sign off. Tash in the UK.
Thank you guys. Signing off from SA is me, Bernice.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.